Best case in the cemetery. Not in the cemetery. Sprinkled in ashes, smoked up by my homies.
Throughout history, certain moments have sent chills down our spines. Not because of what happened, but because someone seemingly knew it was coming. When celebrities speak about their own deaths before they occur, it creates an unsettling intersection between premonition and tragedy. Whether through lyrics, interviews, letters, or casual conversations with friends, these 20 iconic figures left behind words that would later echo with devastating accuracy. Number 20. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States. He led America during the Civil War and helped end slavery. But Lincoln also had strange dreams and feelings about his own death that came true in a scary way. Just a few days before he died, Lincoln told his wife Mary and some friends about a terrible dream he had. In the dream, he heard people crying in the White House. He walked through the rooms looking for where the sad sounds were coming from. When he reached the East Room, Lincoln saw a dead body lying on a platform. The body was covered, and soldiers were guarding it. People were crying all around. In the dream, Lincoln asked a soldier, "Who is dead in the White House?" The soldier answered, "The president." He was killed by an assassin. Lincoln woke up from this nightmare, feeling very disturbed. He told people about it, which shows he was clearly worried. His wife Mary was very upset when she heard about the dream. Lincoln also had other strange experiences. Some people said he saw two reflections of his face in a mirror, one normal and one very pale and ghostly. He thought this meant he would serve 2 terms as president, but wouldn't survive the second one. Lincoln received many death threats during his presidency. He seemed to accept that someone might try to kill him. He once told his bodyguard that he felt like assassination was always a possibility for a president. On April 14th, 1865, just 5 days after the Civil War ended, Lincoln went to see a play at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. During the play, a man named John Wilkes Booth shot Lincoln in the head. The president died the next morning. Lincoln's funeral was held in the East Room of the White House, exactly like his dream predicted. His body lay on a platform with soldiers guarding it, and people cried all around, just as he had seen in his nightmare. Lincoln's dream came true in the most heartbreaking way possible. Number 19. Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur was one of the most famous rappers ever. He made music in the 1990s that people still listen to today. His songs talked about life in tough neighborhoods, fighting for what's right, and standing up for black people in America. But Tupac also talked about death, a lot. Many of his songs had lyrics about dying. He wrote songs called "If I Die Tonight" and "Life Goes On." These weren't just pretend stories. It seemed like Tupac really believed he wouldn't live very long. In 1996, Tupac did an interview with a magazine called Vibe. He told them he didn't think he would live past 25 years old. He talked about death like it didn't scare him, like he already knew it was coming soon. Just a few months later, on September 7, 1996, Tupac went to a boxing match in Las Vegas. After the fight, someone shot him while he was in a car. He was hurt really badly. 6 days later, Tupac died. He was exactly 25 years old, the age he said he wouldn't get past. Nobody was ever arrested for killing Tupac. His murder is still a mystery today, but what isn't a mystery is how he seemed to know his time was running out. Number 18. The Notorious B.I.G. Biggie Smalls. Christopher Wallace had a stage name, The Notorious B.I.G. Some people also called him Biggie Smalls. He was another super famous rapper in the 1990s. At first, he was friends with Tupac, but later, they had a big fight and stopped being friends. Just like Tupac, Biggie talked about death in his music. He made an album that was going to come out in March 1997. The album was called Life After Death. That's a pretty scary name, right? On the cover, Biggie stood next to a hearse. A hearse is the special car that carries dead bodies to funerals. Biggie also rapped songs with titles like You're Nobody Till Somebody Kills You and Suicidal Thoughts. These songs were dark and sad. They talked about dying and violence. On March 9, 1997, Biggie was in Los Angeles for a music party. After the party, someone drove up next to his car and shot him. Biggie died that night. He was only 24 years old. His album, Life After Death, came out just 16 days after he was killed. The name of the album seemed to predict exactly what happened. It's one of the scariest coincidences in music history. People who knew Biggie said he was scared after Tupac died. He worried that someone might kill him too. Sadly, he was right to be worried. Number 17, John Lennon. John Lennon was one of the Beatles, which might be the most famous band ever. The Beatles made music in the 1960s, and John Lennon kept making music on his own after the band broke up. He also worked hard to promote peace around the world. But even though John wanted peace, he told people he expected to die in a violent way. In interviews during the 1970s, he said he thought someone might kill him one day. He even said it might happen in New York City, where he lived. John told a magazine called Playboy that famous people like him could become targets. He said someone who was obsessed with him or angry at him might try to hurt him. On December 8, 1980, John Lennon was coming home to his apartment building in New York. A man named Mark David Chapman was waiting outside. Chapman had even asked John for an autograph earlier that day. But that night, Chapman shot John Lennon 4 times. John died almost immediately. He was 40 years old. The whole world was shocked and sad. But John had talked about this exact thing happening. It's like he knew that being famous could be dangerous, and he was right. Number 16, Bob Marley. Bob Marley was the king of reggae music. He came from Jamaica and made music that made people happy and thoughtful at the same time. His songs talked about love, standing up against unfairness, and believing in something bigger than yourself. But Bob also sang about death and not being on earth for very long. Songs like Redemption Song and Time Will Tell had words that seemed to say goodbye. Bob talked to friends about feeling like his time was limited. In 1977, Bob found out he had cancer. It started in his toe, but doctors said they needed to cut off his toe to stop the cancer. Bob said no because of his religious beliefs. Bob was Rastafarian, and people in that religion believed the body should stay whole. The cancer got worse and spread to other parts of his body. Bob Marley died on May 11, 1981. He was only 36 years old. He was so young, but his music made it seem like he knew he wouldn't grow old. Whether it was a feeling he had, or just acceptance of what might happen, Bob seemed to understand that his journey would be short. Number 15, Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was called the King of Pop. He was one of the most famous people in the entire world. Michael made incredible music and could dance better than almost anyone. But being that famous also meant lots of pressure and stress. In the weeks before Michael died in 2009, he told people close to him something scary. He said, "They're trying to kill me." He told this to his friends, his family, and even his daughter, Paris. Michael felt like people around him wanted to hurt him or use him. Michael was getting ready for a big concert tour called This Is It. He felt pressure to perform and make money for other people. He was worried and scared. On June 25, 2009, Michael Jackson died at his home in Los Angeles. His doctor, Conrad Murray, had been giving him strong medicines to help him sleep. Michael got too much medicine and died. He was 50 years old. Dr. Murray was arrested and went to jail for causing Michael's death. But people still wonder, was Michael right? Were people really trying to hurt him? Or was he just very stressed and worried? We may never know the full truth. But his words before he died were definitely scary and strange. Number 14, Princess Diana. Princess Diana was one of the most loved people in the world. She was married to Prince Charles, who would one day become King of England. Diana was beautiful, kind, and worked hard to help sick people and those who didn't have much money. But Diana's marriage to Prince Charles was not happy. They got divorced in 1996. After the divorce, Diana was worried about her safety. In October 1996, Diana wrote a letter to her butler. A butler is like a personal helper. His name was Paul Burrell. In the letter, Diana said something shocking. She wrote that Prince Charles was planning to have her killed in a car accident. She said they would make her car's brakes stop working so she would crash and die. Then Charles could marry someone else. Almost exactly 1 year later, on August 30th, 1997, Princess Diana died in a car crash in Paris, France. She was in a car with her boyfriend, and photographers were chasing them to take pictures. The driver was going really fast, and the car crashed in a tunnel. Diana died from her injuries. She was only 36 years old. Investigations said the crash was an accident. But Diana's letter made many people wonder. Did she somehow know what was going to happen? Was it really just an accident? Or was there something more? The letter Diana wrote is one of the most chilling predictions ever. It was too specific and too accurate to ignore. Number 13. Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley was the king of rock and roll. In the 1950s and 1960s, he was the biggest star in music. Elvis could sing, dance, and act in movies. Everybody loved him. But Elvis had problems. He took a lot of prescription medicines that doctors give you. Over time, he took too many, and it hurt his health. Elvis gained weight and started looking sick. According to people who knew him, Elvis often said he wouldn't live past 50 years old. Some people think he said this because his mother died young, and he thought he would too. On August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley died in his home in Memphis, Tennessee. He had a heart attack caused by all the medicines he was taking. Elvis was only 42 years old, not even close to 50. Even though Elvis didn't make it to 50, he was right that he would die young. Maybe he could see that the way he was living, taking too many medicines and not taking care of himself, would lead to an early death. Number 12. Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison was the lead singer of a band called The Doors. They made rock music in the 1960s. Jim was handsome, talented, and mysterious. He wrote poetry and sang about deep, dark subjects. Jim was obsessed with death. He talked about it all the time. He read poems about death, wrote songs about it, and told friends he would die young. Jim specifically talked about dying at age 27, just like some other famous musicians had. On July 3rd, 1971, Jim Morrison was found dead in a bathtub in Paris, France. He was exactly 27 years old. The official reason was heart failure, but no one did an autopsy, a medical exam of the body after death, to find out for sure. Jim became one of the most famous members of what people call the 27 Club. That's a nickname for famous musicians who all died at age 27. Jim didn't just predict his death, he seemed to want it in some strange way. His songs, especially ones called The End and Riders on the Storm, felt like he was saying goodbye. It's sad and spooky at the same time. Number 11. Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain was the lead singer of Nirvana, a band that became huge in the early 1990s. Their music was called grunge, and it was loud, emotional, and honest. Kurt wrote songs about pain, sadness, and feeling like you don't fit in. But Kurt had serious problems. He struggled with drug addiction and depression, a mental illness that makes you feel very sad and hopeless. Kurt talked in interviews about other musicians who died at 27, like Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix. He said he felt like he might follow the same path. On April 5th, 1994, Kurt Cobain died by suicide at his home in Seattle, Washington. He was 27 years old. His death shocked millions of fans around the world. But people close to Kurt said they weren't completely surprised. He had talked about death and seemed unable to escape his sadness. Kurt's prediction wasn't just words. It was a warning sign that he was in deep pain. Sadly, no one could help him in time. Number 10. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was one of the greatest guitar players ever. He could make a guitar sound like magic. Jimi became famous in the late 1960s, and his music changed rock and roll forever. But Jimi told people he didn't think he'd live past 30 years old. He had a feeling his life would be short but amazing. And that's exactly what happened. On September 18th, 1970, Jimi Hendrix died in London, England. He took too many sleeping pills and choked in his sleep. Jimi was only 27 years old. He didn't even make it to 30 like he predicted. Jimmy's music had themes of freedom and escaping reality. Maybe he sensed that his time would be brief. His prediction was close enough to be really eerie. Number 9, Amy Winehouse. Amy Winehouse had one of the best singing voices of her generation. She made jazz and soul music that sounded old-fashioned, but fresh at the same time. Her biggest song was called Rehab, and it was about refusing to get help for her drinking problem. Unfortunately, Amy struggled with alcohol and drugs. In interviews, she talked about the 27 Club. She mentioned Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, another singer who died at 27, and Kurt Cobain. Amy said she was scared of joining them. On July 23, 2011, Amy Winehouse was found dead in her apartment in London. She drank too much alcohol, and it killed her. Amy was exactly 27 years old. The thing she was most afraid of came true. Amy's prediction was both a cry for help and a fear she couldn't escape. It's one of the saddest stories on this list. Number 8, Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger was an actor from Australia. He was in many movies, but he's most famous for playing the Joker in The Dark Knight. His performance was so good that he won an Academy Award, Oscar, after he died. But playing the Joker was really hard on Heath. In interviews before he died, Heath said the role was haunting him. He said he couldn't sleep because the character stayed in his head even when he wasn't acting. Heath was exhausted and stressed. On January 22, 2008, Heath Ledger died in his apartment in New York City. He accidentally took too many prescription medicines, and they killed him. Heath was only 28 years old. Heath didn't exactly predict his death, but his words about being haunted and unable to rest make his death feel even sadder. It's like the darkness of the character he played somehow hurt him in real life. Number 7, Paul Walker. Paul Walker was an actor who starred in the Fast and Furious movies. These movies are about car racing and action. In real life, Paul loved fast cars and racing just like his character in the movies. In 2013, Paul did an interview where he said something that now seems scary. He said, "If one day the speed kills me, don't cry, because I'll be smiling." Paul wasn't afraid of dying in a car. He loved driving fast that much. On November 30th, 2013, Paul Walker died in a car crash in California. He was a passenger in a car that was going really fast. The car crashed and caught on fire. Paul died instantly. He was 40 years old. Paul's words about dying from speed came true. It's both a celebration of what he loved and a tragic prediction of how he would die. Number 6, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston was one of the greatest singers of all time. She had a beautiful, powerful voice and sang songs like "I Will Always Love You" and "Greatest Love of All." But in her later years, Whitney had problems with drugs and alcohol. Her health got worse, and people close to her were worried. Shortly before she died, Whitney told friends something sad. She said she felt like the end was coming. She seemed to accept that her life was almost over. On February 11, 2012, Whitney Houston was found dead in a bathtub at a hotel in Beverly Hills, California. She drowned, and the doctor said heart disease and drug use contributed to her death. Whitney was 48 years old. Her prediction was heartbreaking. It showed that Whitney knew her struggles were catching up with her, but maybe she felt powerless to stop it. Number 5, Mark Twain. Mark Twain was one of America's most famous writers. He wrote books like The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Mark was born in 1835, the same year that Halley's Comet appeared in the sky. Halley's Comet is a special comet that only comes close to Earth every 75 years. Mark Twain knew this, and he said something amazing. He predicted that he would die when the comet came back. In 1910, Halley's Comet returned to the sky. The very next day, on April 21st, 1910, Mark Twain died of a heart attack. He was 74 years old. Mark Twain's prediction was incredibly specific and accurate. It's one of the most amazing predictions on this list because he linked his death to an actual event in space, and he was right. Number 4, Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra was one of the most famous singers and entertainers of the 1900s. He sang classics like My Way and New York, New York. Frank loved performing and couldn't imagine dying alone or quietly. Frank joked many times that he would die on stage or in front of other people. He said he wanted to go out doing what he loved, performing for crowds. On May 14th, 1998, Frank Sinatra had a heart attack at a hospital in Los Angeles. He was 82 years old. While he wasn't technically on a stage, he had performed just hours before at a friend's party. He was surrounded by family and friends when he died. Frank's wish to die around people came true. His prediction was more of a hope than a warning, but it still happened the way he wanted. Number 3. John Denver. John Denver was a folk singer, famous for songs like Take Me Home Country Roads and Leaving on a Jet Plane. He loved nature, music, and flying airplanes. But even though John loved flying, he also feared it. He told friends that he was afraid he might die in a plane crash. He even wrote a song called Leaving on a Jet Plane, which had sad lyrics about saying goodbye before a flight. On October 12, 1997, John Denver was flying his own small experimental airplane. Something went wrong, and the plane crashed into Monterey Bay in California. John died instantly. He was 53 years old. The thing John feared most came true. It's a tragic irony that he died doing something he loved, but was also afraid of. Number 2. Anton Yelchin. Anton Yelchin was a young actor who played Chekhov in the new Star Trek movies. He was talented and had a bright future ahead of him, but Anton kept personal journals where he wrote down his thoughts and feelings. In entries written months before he died, Anton wrote about feeling trapped and sensing that something would end early. He didn't say exactly what he meant, but his words were dark and worried. On June 19, 2016, Anton Yelchin died in a terrible accident at his home in Los Angeles. His Jeep rolled backward down his driveway and pinned him against a fence. He was only 27 years old. When people found Anton's journal entries after he died, they were shocked. His words seemed to predict that something bad was coming, even though he didn't know what it would be. Number 1. Ritchie Valens. Ritchie Valens was a rock and roll singer in the 1950s. He was only 17 years old, but he was already famous. His biggest hit was a song called La Bamba. But Ritchie had a serious fear. He had nightmares about dying in a plane crash. He told his family and friends about these scary dreams. Ritchie was really afraid of flying. On February 3, 1959, Ritchie Valens got on a small plane with 2 other famous musicians, Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper. The plane was supposed to take them to their next concert, but the plane crashed during a snowstorm in Iowa. All 3 musicians died. Ritchie was only 17 years old. This day became known as the day the music died, because 3 great musicians died so young. Ritchie's prediction was horribly specific. He dreamed of dying in a plane crash, and that's exactly what happened. If you enjoyed learning about these eerie predictions and found these stories as fascinating and chilling as we do, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content about history, mysteries, and incredible true stories. Don't forget to comment below and tell us which celebrity prediction shocked you the most. Was it Princess Diana's letter, Mark Twain's comet, or Ritchie Valens' nightmare? We love hearing your thoughts and theories. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next video, and share this with friends who love mysterious and unbelievable stories. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.